Suppose you just bought your first laser engraving machine, diode, CO2, whichever, and you want to start selling some of your things online on an online platform like Etsy or eBay or Shopify or Amazon. There's a lot of them out there that you can sell on, and there's thousands of people selling things online that they make with their laser engravers. What do you make? What's an easy thing to make? One of the first things I got into doing is because I saw it online was, where'd they go? Ah, here they are. Slate Coasters. These come in packages. I got these off of Amazon. There's 6 in this package, and they come with little rubber feet, and they're stone, slate, and lasers, pretty much every laser, will engrave on these. Depending on the type of laser, it'll engrave quite deeply. But even if it just marks it, the marking on the slate is white. So you can put photographs or anything else, just like we did the Norton white tile, except everything is white. So you will have to do it in a reverse or a negative image if you wanted someone's face to not look, reversed. I sell these for about $30 a set of 4 with a little wooden box that I make. The little wooden box is like right here, maybe a photo of it, and that's a pretty good little seller for me. Now I've seen people sell these individually. Let me show you one. Let me show you an individual one. Yeah, an individual one. You can see they've got little rubber feet. Sometimes you have to actually take these off and reposition them because they manufacture them so poorly. I'm sure these are mined out of the ground. Hi, Freya. So let's get into some of the nitty-gritty settings for your diode laser to mark these coasters, etch on them, and I'll show you a thing that I do to make the surface a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more contrasty. So we'll get into that right now. Sometimes when these come in, they're not so, decent. So what you have to do is probably evaluate them. And what I always do is look at them, and if they have a really, really sharp edge like that right there, I usually sand that off, or at least give them a good sanding. And I usually evaluate these, check them out. I usually get a box or 2 of these, and so I mix and match the ones that I think are going to be better. These are really nice, but they're sharp. So I'm going to be doing a lot of sanding on these because you don't want to sell that to anybody, So I don't see any broken ones. This one's got like a really bad curve on him. I probably won't sell that one, but this one looks fine, and they look fine. A lot of these look fine, and like I said, the ones from Amazon, the packages, they give you 6 of them, so these all look pretty good. That one looks good. And what I do is I either take a sanding block and I just sand the edges of them enough to where, it's not going to cut anybody when they mess with it, or that it's not going to break off like that. I actually have a powered sander in the other room, in the kiln room. I will probably use that. Most people aren't going to have a powered sander, a knife sharpener. But yeah, after that, then I'll show you how I prep these in order to get the surface nicer. How do you get the surface to look better before you etch it? Make sure to do this before you etch it. Do not spray them after you etch it, because it will dull the white etching surface that you just accomplished with your laser engraver. This guy, again, now I'm not promoting Rust-Oleum 2X anything, but this is clear satin spray. It can be glossy or satin. Don't make it matte. Make it shiny. It looks better. Shiny looks better. So make it shiny, and spray your tiles with this first, like I'm going to show you in a second. Once they dry, go ahead and laser etch them. They'll look awesome. They'll look banging because it brings out the blacks in the slate, and the white is just really, really dynamic. The contrast is intense. So yeah, do this. Spray it first, then etch it. Or the other way around. All right, so I have LightBurn and I have my files. They are here. And now, once again, these are just vectors. You can get all sorts of line art from the internet legally. That legal line art you can find in compilations, like $5 for a page of all of these vectors of Norse this, or there's so much out there. But, you know, please, just buy it. Pay a couple of bucks. That way, at least you're covered that way. On top of that, see, vectors, I can just select, oh, look, I took a chunk out. Vectors seem to work a little bit better, in my opinion. You can just take these line art images as photographs. When you load them into LightBurn, you say import. When you import them into LightBurn, they'll come through as what's called an image. An image will come up here instead of just blatant fill. Image gives you different options, but you can literally, inside of LightBurn, select said image if it's a line art and trace it. I think you literally just grab it and convert to bitmap. There's a trace image on here if it knows that it's an image. Fairly easy to do. You'll notice I have a line on this one, and you're thinking, well, why? Is that going to do something? Yes, it's going to do something. It's not going to be cut. It is just going to be scored or marked. I'm going to put a piece of paper down and I'm going to burn this red line onto that piece of paper so I know where to put my tiles. We've got a lot of spare paper out there. It's just a sheet of notebook paper. That, and when, let's get rid of those. When I score that or burn that with a 20 watt laser, we're going to use the old X tool, 20 watt D1. With the 20 watt laser, I've got it set for like 50 speed at 95 power, but that's pretty fast. So it's just going to mark these. And once it marks those, then we can just place our tiles, coasters rather, on top of the area that's been marked, and we'll know that these will be in the right area. It's a template. It's a poor man's template. So what kind of speed do we have for actually etching this image on the tiles? Well, I actually have it set for 80/80. That's 80 speed and 80 power. Now that's with a 20 watt diode laser. There's lots of different lasers out there, as we've seen. The norm seems to be the 20 watt. Everybody bought a 20 watt. They've got 40 watts. They've got 80 watts. I mean, it goes up for diode lasers. Mathematically, all that's going to do is, either, half your speed or double your speed. Say if this was obviously a 40 watt laser, instead of 80 speed, 80 power, I could literally half that and say 40 power and 2 times 80, 160 speed at 40 power. It should work that way. I haven't noticed that, but mathematically it's supposed to work. So I've discovered 80 and 80. Hey guys, if you have a better setting for your Slate coasters on a 20 watt diode laser, then that speed and that power right there, please comment below. I'd love to know. I'd like to know what everybody's using. That's just what I've stumbled onto that works really well. This size and this speed, this speed and this power. And like I said, the line really doesn't do anything except mark paper. So we'll go downstairs into the studio. I'll take this file and we'll etch some Slate coasters with it. site I use and have used for quite some time is Boxes, Boxes.py. Boxes.py. Now when you type that into Google, it doesn't take you there anymore, and you can't use it as an address anymore because they've changed it. I think somebody else is hosting them, so it's down here where it says gallery. It's also Festi. It's boxes.hackerspace-bamberg.de. I'll put a link in the comment section, in the description. That'll at least get you there. There's all of these presets. Explore. It's an interesting site. But what we want to do is simply, see, there's a box. You can use that one, or a closed box. I always use a closed box. Don't ask me why, because I like the lid on it, just in case I want to actually make a lid or alter it. So you click on closed box and you get closed box here, and here's all of your settings. We'll get into this setting for finger joins in just a minute. What we want to do is find out what our sizes are. Now, unfortunately, this goes in for millimeters. And so if you know the size of your box, and let's just guess at our box for our tiles. Our tiles are 4 inches. So that means our box is going to be roughly the interior 4 inches. We'll give it a little space. But if I have the inside 4 inches, well, let's just say 95. Let's say it's 95 wide. That's X, 95. And this is going to be inner width in millimeters, because that's, you know, the inside of the box. But watch this little radial right here. It says outside. If that's clicked, it will not tell you that it says outside width. It'll just say inner width, and it'll be the outside. We don't want that. We want it to be the inside. Our Y dimensions, that shouldn't be too wide. I mean, the little stack of coasters is about that, but I'm just guessing. Make sure and measure your stuff out. Let's say we want it to be about 50. Yeah. How about 55? Let's go 55. And the height, let's make it quite a bit smaller. Let's go 65. Let's say 65 height. And that's that. Now, thickness. Down here under default settings, thickness is the thickness of the wood that you're cutting for your, hi Freya, the thickness of the wood that you're cutting. Are you cutting the 3 millimeter Baltic plywood, which is very popular for lasers, or are you cutting what I cut mostly, they call it 5 millimeters. It's not. Neither is it actually a 1/4 inch. It's more like 4.85 millimeters. So let's say 4.88 millimeters. Okay, so there's that. There's a lot of other settings. If you get this wrong, you can play with it later. All that's going to do is either make your finger joins, your keys on your finger joints stick out too far so you can feel it like across the surface, or the opposite way. It'll be like little ditches. That's basically. So, you know, take a caliper and measure your wood that you're going to cut, and you'll be safe there. Format SVG, that's great, because SVG you can load into most G-code programs like laser etching and stuff, and it'll also open up in your Photoshops and your Illustrators and all of those free programs that are vector. Reference 100 down here. And labels. Labels will just tell you top, bottom, side, and reference just tells you this is 100. This is 100 millimeters. Leave it on there. Here's one that you definitely need to shut off if you're using a laser. It says inner corners loop. If you say loop, then the corners are here, but it'll go past it and connect it with a loop. That's no. We just wanted a corner. And the burn kerf is like, it's a correction in millimeters. I always just leave it. If you find out that your stuff has a little bit too much of a knock in it, then you can get rid of the burn kerf compensation. But whatever. That is where we're going to go. Now, what's this setting? Settings for finger joins. I leave that alone usually, unless I really want to put a whole bunch of finger joins in something, or just a few. If you do that, you have to start messing with how much space is in between the finger joins. Yeah, maybe later. we'll just leave it at default. And so say generate, what's it going to do? Well, boom, it generates one of these. I know I'm covering half of it, but this is literally an SVG. You can save it out as an SVG. Now, here's the top and the bottom and the walls. If this is the bottom and that's the front and the side, it'll make an interesting little box. We're not going to cut this one exactly. I'm going to cut my pre-existing one. But this just shows you how. Say maybe I wanted this key. I maybe wanted another one down here. Well, in that setting for finger joins, you can adjust that and change it. So how do we get it into our computer? You right-click it and say, I'm going to save as. Save as what? Well, oh, look, it comes through as an SVG. So say I've got one in there, which is why it's saying it's number 1 on top of the one I've already got there. But close box SVG, save it, and go find it. How, do you want a box to hold them? Do you want to sell them? How much are you going to sell them for? I don't know. I know how much I sell them for.